There were a lot of injuries in Week 6 on Sunday. Let's talk about them and break them down. My name is Joe Dolan, and this is the Fantasy Points morning lineup for Monday, October 16th, 2023. Any stats you hear in this program will be from the Fantasy Points data suite, which is 75% off at fantasypoints.com, and you can check it out with a free 7-day trial. Now, if you want a content package, DFS, betting, season-long fantasy, use code GURIFIC25, double the R, not the F, for 25% off what is already a discounted rate. Now, let's start with an unusually brutal day of quarterback injuries. The Jaguars' Trevor Lawrence left late in the Jaguars' win over the Colts on Sunday with a knee injury. Now, he didn't return to the game, but it was a 3-score game when he did leave. Per Michael DeRocco of ESPN, Lawrence said he felt, quote, discomfort when he went to the ground. He said he wasn't sure if he twisted his knee, but did say there is some bruising. Now, he wouldn't commit to playing next week. Obviously, things need to progress, but at the very least, it's something that needs to be monitored going forward for Jacksonville as they look to prepare for their game next week. Bears quarterback Justin Fields left action with a hand injury, which seems to be a thumb injury on his throwing hand. Now, x-rays were negative, but he does need an MRI. Per Lester Wiltfong of Windy City Gridiron, Fields couldn't grip the football but wanted to return. Unfortunately, this seems like something that could last into the future, and it will once again call Justin Fields' future into question. Tyson Bagent, an undrafted rookie out of Shepherd, came in and actually had a rushing touchdown, but the Bears' offense was still not terribly effective with Bagent, though he did at least get the ball to DJ Moore. Fields' status must be monitored going forward. The Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill injured his ankle on Sunday morning in London. He was on crutches after the game, per Teron Davenport of ESPN, and there is an MRI coming. You would obviously fear for a high ankle sprain. Now, if the Titans do not have Tannehill, they absolutely must do something at the quarterback position. Malik Willis came in and looked like a complete deer in headlights, taking 4 sacks on one drive that was somehow just extended by a bunch of Raven penalties, but Willis really had no clue what he was looking at, and he cannot run a functional NFL offense based on what I saw in London. Just an absolute disaster for Malik Willis. Now, the Raiders' Jimmy Garoppolo, no stranger to injuries, got into an ambulance, this is per Heidi Fang of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, with a back injury and was transported from the stadium to go get further evaluation at a hospital. Obviously, they would be checking for more serious, maybe internal injuries. Unfortunately for Garoppolo, the injuries have continued to pile up and have derailed a once promising career. The fact that he's got a back injury is a concern. Now, Brian Hoyer came into the game for the Raiders. Aiden O'Connell was the one who started the game that Jimmy Garoppolo missed earlier this season, but Jimmy Garoppolo, if he can't play, obviously a downgrade across the board for the Raiders offense, including Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams. Now, at running back, the number 1 overall guy is now injured. Christian McCaffrey left with an oblique injury. He was listed as questionable to return, came back in basically immediately, returned for 1 play, and then left again. There was no word from Kyle Shanahan on the severity of the injury, but Jordan Mason was the top guy behind him and scored a touchdown late in the 49ers' loss. Elijah Mitchell was potentially limited in that game as he came in with a knee injury. He was questionable to come into the game with the knee injury. So keep an eye on this, but Jordan Mason played pretty well in Christian McCaffrey's absence, and I think, never know with the 49ers, he would be the priority add, at least in this backfield, if McCaffrey were to miss time. Oblique injuries can be very tricky. Now, David Montgomery of the Lions, he left with a rib injury on Sunday. X-rays were negative, but he did not return to action. Behind him, Craig Reynolds and Devine Ozigbo were getting carries. Remember, Jahmyr Gibbs was already out with a hamstring injury, so the Lions' run game is really being tested. It is hard for them to avoid injuries at that position for whatever reason. Craig Reynolds would be the priority add here if Montgomery misses time, or if Jahmyr Gibbs continues to miss time as well. Ramondre Stevenson was checked for a concussion and an ankle injury at the end of a long run for 15 yards on which his head slammed hard off the turf. Now, I am shocked that he returned to the game for the Patriots because it looked like his head slammed off the turf pretty badly, and he was also limping at the end of the play, but he returned to action somehow. And look, you got to keep an eye on him going forward. The Patriots are a disaster anyway, but Ezekiel Elliott did score and could potentially have some value if things creep up on Stevenson over the course of the week. Now, at wide receiver, 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel. He left with a shoulder injury, and per Jordan Schultz of The Score, x-rays came back negative. The next step is an MRI per Schultz, but I'm told the team believes he, quote, will be fine after getting injured versus the Browns. It's not considered to be serious, though an MRI will tell the full story, which you would presume he's going to get early in the week. Now, this game was a huge fire fueler for the people who believe Brock Purdy is a product of his system. You ever see Kindergarten Cop, the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he plays a cop who's undercover in a kindergarten, hence Kindergarten Cop? Now, there's a scene, the bad guy's mother, her entire, thing is to run people over with her car, and eventually Arnold Schwarzenegger's partner in the movie, she goes in and confronts the mother in a bathroom and beats her up. And she says,
"You're not so tough without your car, are ya?"
Well, that might have been Brock Purdy's moment, losing Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel against the Browns and then losing the game as well. Was Brock Purdy not so tough without his car? Oof, not a great showing for Brock Purdy in that game. Thanks for joining me for the Fantasy Points Morning Lineup. Remember to subscribe to the channel for more fantasy football content. Smash that like button and comment if you enjoyed this video. And you can catch me over at fantasypoints.com. Use code GORIFIC25 and come talk to me in our subscriber Discord. Thanks, everybody, and I'll talk to you later this week.